All right. Well, why don't I go ahead and get started? So, Ashley, you want to talk a little bit about today's call and
Absolutely. So thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Ashley Madison, the program director at IncubatorWorks. So we will have a lot of information to cover in an hour. We like to keep this as short as possible, but any questions are certainly welcome. If you do have any questions, drop them in the chat room and we will answer them when we have the breaks for questions. If we do get Zoom bombed today, I'm going to just cut the session completely so that we don't have any issues, but we're confident there will not be any of that today. So go ahead, Nancy.
all right, thank you. So my name's Nancy Kirby. I'm Executive Director here at IncubatorWorks. And on the call with me today are Alan Ray, my co-director, Barry Hemley, our Operations Director, who's hosting the call, and MK Kellogg, who you can see her name, but not her picture, and Aixa Lopez. So we also have with us George Miner from REDEC, R-E-D-E-C, which is a nonprofit organization that provides SBA funding to small businesses, and you'll hear from George a little later. I think that's it, so I'll start sharing the screen. Bear with me for a minute while I make sure I get to the right place here. Is that final? Yeah. And I'm still getting used to this, so like I said, do bear with me while I get it up and show it. And now I need to duplicate the screen.
No, it's good right now.
Oh, it's good? Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, so our agenda today, actually it's slide 2. So the CARES Act, what we know now, and that's like compared to a week ago, and it's changed significantly. So we're going to cover paycheck protection, debt relief, the economic disaster loans, the small business tax provisions, income tax relief, unemployment, and working with your lenders. So we're going to review the basics and we're going to provide additional info on how the act is rolling out. We don't know all the answers, that's for sure. But if we can't answer your question, we'll do our best to find the answer. Remember, these are general observations and not specific recommendations for your business. And as Ashley mentioned, please send us your questions in the chat option, and we will be working on answering those. So, program overview. The total available is $349 billion. Sounds like a lot of money, but that's for the whole country. And it can go for businesses that are up to 500 employees. So this money is going to go fast. Applied for as of yesterday, I couldn't find it. I searched all over the web trying to find it, had no luck, but I know that the applications are really rolling in. In general, we're finding that local and regional banks are much more responsive than national banks. We've heard some interesting stories of the big national banks saying, sorry, I can't help you, and people going to small banks in their area and getting the help quickly. It is on a first come, first served basis, and one of those local banks has already processed 20 million in applications. They've got approvals, but they don't have any money yet to disperse, but they're doing a great job, as are many of our local banks. And here's the big thing today to make sure that you walk away from this session with, is that this Paycheck Protection Program is now available to self-employed individuals, and the banks will be taking applications as of tomorrow. Okay, loan overview, more information that's updated. Loan term is 2 years. If you go back and look at last week, ignore it, because this stuff is the newest and the most accurate. Any loan payment, any amount of this program that's not forgiven will be deferred for the 2-year period. It's a 1% interest rate, no collateral or personal guarantee, no credit check. The loan amount is 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. So for self-employed people, that's going to be your Schedule C income, or if you're in a partnership, maybe your K1 income, divided by 12 times 2.5. Might be a little more complicated than that, but that's the basic idea. How do you use the money to get the loan forgiveness? You have to use it for payroll costs over the 8-week period after the loan is made. We do have some noise. I think we might need to mute a few more people, Barry, if you would, please. Group health insurance premiums qualify, and you can also use the money from this program to pay your mortgage, interest, rent, and utility costs for the same 8-week period. What if your employee headcount decreases? Because they also want to go by employee headcount. And obviously, a lot of people are laying people off during the interim from the February 15th date that the program starts with until now, for example. If you can get your employment back to the same level of FTEs as of June 30th, then you basically are okay. The potential payback, or I say payback, it gets converted into a loan, so the term there is kind of misleading, is you apply a fraction calculated by using your average number of FTEs as of June 30th, 2020, compared to that base period. So if you had 3/4 of your employees, then you might get 3/4 of the amount forgiven. The planning point is it might actually, even if you thought you wanted to cut somebody to save some money as of June 30th, you might realize that, well, if you cut them, then you're going to have to pay it back in the PPP, so you might be better keeping them on board through that time frame. You request forgiveness of your debt by documenting the total payroll and number of employees. So if you were self-employed, that would be payments to yourself, any group health insurance payments, the payment of eligible mortgage interest, rent, and utilities. You have to certify that the information is correct. And like most federal programs, if you do this in a fraudulent way, you take the money and you have no intention of paying payroll, for example, then you would be subject to fraud penalties. You have to certify that you were in business as of February 15th, that the current economic uncertainty made the loan necessary, that you used the money to retain workers, that's what you heard before, and once again, that you need to do this and do it for the right reasons. What counts as payroll for the sole proprietor or the independent contractor? As I mentioned earlier, it's your net earnings from self-employment, capped at $100,000, and they're using the 2019 tax return. As a special note, partners and members of LLCs, so if you're in a partnership or you're that's our LLC that's treated as a partnership, you're considered as being self-employed. So you're still able to do this through this program. Some other questions on the application is they ask if a 20% or more owner has been convicted of felony in the last 5 years or incarcerated. If that's the case, you can't apply. Or if you're delinquent or you've defaulted on an SBA loan in the past, then you can't apply. You go for this loan to your bank or credit union. There's been a lot of questions people have been asking about I don't have a relationship with a bank or a credit union that's an SBA loan, or some banks have decided not to even do it. So then where do you go? I was in a call yesterday with our local SBDC guy, the Small Business Development Center representative, and he said that they're compiling a list of banks and credit unions in our region that will accept PPP applications from non-customers. And hopefully he was thinking that was going to be ready today. So keep your fingers crossed. But it's important to apply as soon as you can. So before we go to questions, I just want to emphasize it's last week I actually did a couple of individual consults with people and self-employed people and said, hey, you know, I didn't think that they were eligible for the PPP, and that's not correct, or well, at least is what we know now. Self-employed people are eligible for filing for this program. So that's a really critical takeaway from today's updates. So questions?
Nancy, Wendy has a quick statement to add, and I'll unmute you, Wendy.
So after we talked last week, I applied for the PPP as well as the EIDL loan. And I went through Corning Credit Union as that's where my business account is at. And she said I could not apply for PPP because most small businesses, I had not filed my 2019 taxes yet.
Okay, so you need to get that done. That's, unfortunately, that's a requirement.
Okay.
Thank you for that feedback, Wendy.
Dave Rochelle also has a question. Dave, I will unmute you. Go ahead.
Thanks, Barry. So following up on what Wendy just said, I haven't actually filed my 2019 return yet either, but because my accountant had finished my Schedule C, she felt that that was enough to be able to provide to a lender for the loan application. I don't know if that's going to prove to be the case, but my key question here is the date that you just mentioned being tomorrow for self-employed individuals. I hadn't seen that at the point that I actually did go and submit a loan application just yesterday. So I've already got one, hopefully in the pipeline at a local bank where I do not have an account because Corning Credit Union is my bank, but they were asking for all sorts of financial disclosures and several years of returns and everything. They seemed like they didn't want to be bothered, so I went to a different bank.
That's interesting. Basically what they need is the form. So you're correct, and actually, Wendy, you may find that as long as you've got your Schedule C for 2019, you're okay, because that you don't have to certify that that's filed, or you don't need an IRS certified copy. However, every bank is different, and the fact that Chemung Canal accepted it before the due date is excellent. That's really good. That doesn't impact your application. But
They mentioned that I physically hand delivered a copy. I do not know that it's been at all processed. I haven't heard anything back.
Okay, so well, we have heard that Chemung Canal is being very open to new applications, so that's great to hear that.
Nancy, we also have a question from Melanie Wood, and I'm going to unmute you, Melanie, as soon as I can find you. There you are.
Hi, Melanie.
Melanie, you're unmuted on my end. You can just unmute. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Okay, so I am a sole proprietor and just do the Schedule C and 1099. How do I prove payroll for the loan forgiveness?
Well, it's your Schedule C for 2019. Your payroll is the bottom line, your net income.
Okay.
And so that's used for the calculation. You would say, okay, so that's your annual income for 12 months, divide it by 12, and then multiply it by 2.5 to get the amount that you can apply for.
Okay, so no further payroll documentation is needed.
Correct. No, that's correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
And we have one more. Roger, you're all set to go?
Hi,
Yeah.
Roger.
Hi, how are you? I was trying to follow you. Did I hear you say that or one of the people say that there was a deadline for the submission of the PPP of tomorrow?
No, That's the first day that most banks are accepting the application for self-employed people.
Okay, thank you for clarification. And the
Yeah.
other thing is, again, validation, if you don't have 2019 IRS forms filed, would they consider accepting anything else in lieu of that, like 1099s?
I don't think so, because it's based on your net income. So your 1099s are going to be likely your gross income before
Right.
you deduct any expenses.
Right.
So what I've been recommending to a couple other people is to see if they can't work with their accountants or their tax preparers to at least get the Schedule C prepared, so that they have that to take to the bank. The Schedule C being the self-employment form from the personal income tax return. This program is supposed to be in place until June 30th. However, in the conference I was in yesterday, everything I hear is file as soon as you can. So it's kind of ironic, because later on we'll talk about the extension of time to file your personal tax return. But there's a lot of pressure right now on tax preparers to get those Schedule Cs done, so people can file for this.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Nancy. One more quickie question.
Sure.
You mentioned that there was going to be a list of banks that are accepting PPPs. Like, I'm a B of A small business person. Are you aware of the fact that they are accepting PPPs, or how do I find out who is?
Well, I'd call your bank right away, and if they're not, hopefully that list will come from the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, really soon, so they can share it in the community as to who's accepting these programs. And once we do, we'll put a link to it on our website too. Right now, at the sake of promoting one bank over another, and I certainly don't want to play favorites, but we know that Chemung Canal Trust Company is accepting applications from non-customers.
What? I'm sorry, what is the name of that organization?
Chemung Canal Trust Company. They're headquartered in Elmira, New York.
Can you spell that, please?
How about we send you an email?
That's lovely.
So,
thank you.
Okay, so yeah, if you just leave your question in the chat room, we'll send you an email with it.
Greatly appreciate it.
Oh, glad to.
It looks like that's it, Nancy.
Okay, so we'll move forward in our presentation. Debt relief. This one I'm going to turn over to George. Last week we talked about it, but we didn't have much information on it. So George, what do you know about debt relief now, that new information, and what people should do to get it?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by debt relief.
Okay, this is for
Question.
where the SBA is going to pay SBA loans for everyone. So for businesses that already have
I'm
SBA
sorry.
loans, for the next 6 months, those loans will be paid by the SBA. So
All I know that we administer a microloan program. I don't know if that applies for all SBA loans, like 7As and 504s. Those are SBA guaranteed loans primarily, not necessarily direct loans from the SBA, though they do some of that.
yeah.
But for our microloans, that is
Yeah, well,
correct. They are. Go ahead.
Yeah, they actually, everything I've seen said, yes, it's for SBA guaranteed loans too. But if you speak specifically to the microloans, that would be great.
Well, that's when, to be honest with you, since that's all we administer is microloan, unless I see microloan, I'm getting so much SBA information and it changes every other day that I kind of ignore it unless it says microloan. But for the microloan program, they are paying the loan payments, principal and interest, to REDEC, in this case, the lender, on behalf of the borrowers. If we have deferred loan payments, meaning we've told people you don't have to pay us for 3 months or 4 months or 6 months, which we've done that with all of our REDEC loans, they will pay the 6 months following the deferment. What I got yesterday was how they're going to pay REDEC that amount, and we have to do reporting for each borrower, and they're using those reports that show the principal and interest that they pay each month to pay us, and then they told us that we would be paid by the 25th. And then we have to do our reports by the following 7th. So we've got about a 2-week window to process all of our reports and everything, so those loans get paid. So they put a lot of the onus of that on the lender, in that case, REDEC for the microloans. I guess I finally got something formal in writing. I've been hearing this for a while. That they were going to do this, but there was never there were never the details about it. And hopefully they don't change the details tomorrow.
Yeah, well, with the way things are going, I'm sure we're going to get more and more details, and everything does keep changing. But critical to know, if you do have an SBA loan, SBA guaranteed loan, check with your lender.
Yeah, check with your lender. There's nothing you have to do. There's nothing the borrower has to do. Right now, in talking to lenders, all they're doing is dealing with the PPP applications. They're just swamped. And I guess the main concern is what you just said earlier, is they don't have any money. And so they're processing applications, but they have no money to give out. And I guess what I'm seeing at a national level is a concern that the money is going to run out quickly. I know Congress tried to approve another $250 billion today for small businesses under that PPP, which was not it was approved, but that doesn't mean it won't be approved at midnight tonight or noon tomorrow. It's just a lot of politicking going on. But that's to echo what Nancy said. If you're going to do PPP, apply as soon as you can, because there's a lot of concern that money is going to run out quickly.
Hey, George, I just want to add something. If anyone has an SBA microloan or a guaranteed loan, if they're also doing the same thing, after March 27th, if they took your payment for April, they should be reaching out to you to either ask you if you want to have that payment returned or if you want it applied to your principal payment. So if you did get those payments pulled, you do have the option of getting that money back and having the SBA make that payment. Yeah, they'll still be making a payment, but it'll pay down your principal, but you can get that back.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah, a lot of people's loan payments are pulled via ACH automatically right out of your account. And so if your April payment was pulled by your lender, your bank, or REDEC or whoever, they have to contact you and offer you to give you the money back, like Melanie said.
Okay, so the economic injury disaster loans and emergency grants, referred to as EIDL, these are lower interest loans up to $2 million to pay for expenses that could have been met if the disaster had not occurred. The grant part of it is $10,000, and the original discussion information was that you applied for it and you'd get it 3 days after you applied. Not happening. In fact, the latest is it may take up to 3 to 4 weeks. So that's not a big help to people right in the midst of this crisis, but still better than nothing. Now, the latest that we heard yesterday, and if you go on the website, it's saying it's to be determined that they may base the 10,000, how much of the 10,000 you can get based upon the number of employees. So it still makes sense to apply for this, and you can apply for this even if you apply for the PPP. Just don't expect to get a quick answer or to get the full amount. So
they've also instituted an emergency disaster pilot program. Are you going to get into that?
No, I don't know about that.
Okay, so borrowers, businesses that already have an SBA relationship with a lender, meaning you already have some form of an SBA loan, and they've applied for the EIDL disaster loans online to the SBA, they can go to their bank and apply for like an emergency loan of up to $25,000 while they're waiting to hear, whether their EIDL was approved or not, or waiting for the funds to be dispersed. That was a program that came out yesterday. I'll get you a link for that.
Okay.
I'll get you a link for that now. I really don't know that much about it. I saw it was new. And it's a bridge loan. So when you do let's say you do draw down the 25,000, they're supposed to go fast, like everything else we're hearing is supposed to go fast. But and then if you do get approved for the EIDL, it'll pay off that bridge loan.
Okay, so there's a perfect example of how we have to work together and everything is changing so fast.
But again, you have to have an SBA relationship with a bank to apply for that. When I mentioned that to a bank this morning, they said, no, you have to apply to the SBA for it. And I said, I understand you have to apply for the disaster loan through the SBA portal to the SBA, but the guidance I'm getting here is they have to go to the bank they have a relationship for to get this bridge loan. And they just basically said, all we're doing is PPPs. We're not doing anything else for right now. And I said, okay, I'm just making you aware of it, but we'll see. They're inundated, the banks.
Yeah. So the EIDL loan, you apply online at the SBA. The application for that is much simpler. And the SBDC can help you apply for that if you can get through to them.
Just Google SBA disaster and it pops right up.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So information you want to make sure you have handy, because once you start, you can't save the application, is your business EIN, 12 months of revenue and cost of goods sold, your bank account info, and be sure to check your confirmation number. So right now, they're saying 4 to 6 weeks for the EIDL loan. I bet you it's more like 8 weeks. So good money to file for, but don't expect to see it soon. So questions on the EIDL loan and the bridge loan? No? Okay.
I don't have anything yet.
All right, so I found this last night, and I know it's kind of hard to read.
Yeah, I saw that too. This is a nice document.
Actually, there's that express bridge loan, so I guess I didn't read this very carefully.
I just saw it for the first time yesterday, Nancy.
So this is on the America's SBDC website. So when you're looking for SBDC, be sure you look at the America's SBDC and you'll find this. And it compares each of the loans with the terms and the information and the forgiveness. It's a 2-page spreadsheet. So hard to read on this, but I wanted to show you what it looked like and recommend that you get to the website for it. All right, moving on to the small business tax provisions. Oddly enough, there's no changes in this since last week. So that's one thing that hasn't changed. And overall, remember, these things are applicable if you don't get the PPP. So it's like one or the other, you can't get both. So first of all, there's a refundable payroll tax credit for 50% of wages paid during the COVID-19 crisis. It's half of the wages you pay up to $10,000. So basically you can get $5,000 back and tax credits for wages you paid to each of your employees during this crisis. And remember, you can't take this credit if you get the PPP, because then you'd be using SBA money or government money to pay your employees and then getting a credit on it, so that would be double dipping. You can delay the payment of the employer share of your Social Security for the rest of 2020 and pay it one half at the end of 2021 and the other half at the end of 2022. No interest or penalties, but once again, you can't use this deferral if you do the PPP. So which should you do? The Paycheck Protection Program or these tax credits and deferrals? If you're eligible for the PPP, apply for that. That's the best thing. If for some reason you're not eligible or the money runs out, then you use these small business tax provisions. The income tax relief, the due date for filing and paying your 2019 income taxes, both federal and state, is now July 15th. And there's no interest on the deferral, no penalties. So you can still file, but you don't have to pay until then. Let's say you want to file, so you've got your Schedule C, so you can file for the PPP. You can go ahead and do that, and you don't have to worry about paying any tax due until July 15th. So that's a big deal. Unemployment now covers self-employed. If you're self-employed and there's nothing happening in your business and there's no way you can make money and you can't get the PPP, you might very well want to file for unemployment. I was doing some checking on this online, and New York State said that they're going to send $600 a week extra as part of the CARES Act is going to come out this week for people who have already filed. And for people who are just filing, it'll be in 2 to 3 weeks. So they're moving forward with that. So questions on taxes and unemployment? No? Okay.
No, nothing yet.
All right. So once again, emphasizing work with your lender now. Contact your banker as soon as possible. Overall, ask for 3-month loan deferrals. I looked at a few bank websites, and most of them have a standard application to request a 3-month loan holiday, if you will, automatically. And apply for the Paycheck Protection Program as soon as you can. In general, protect your cash flow. Look at what do some projections for now for the next 3 months to see how you're going to get through this. Take advantage of deferrals whenever possible, not just your bank, but it might be rent. Talk to your suppliers, maximizing your borrowing under these programs, hang on to your cash, and spread the word. The more money we can bring into our area, the better for our recovery. So, that's really our mission in this, is to get as much money into entrepreneurs' hands as we possibly can. You can get more information on all these programs and these various websites, and we'll make this, if you'd like to have a copy of the PowerPoint, just let us know in the chat section and we'll email you a copy so you have all these links. More questions, you can contact us at IncubatorWorks. You can contact the SBDC. You can contact George. Stay tuned. We're going to have weekly Zoom calls. Actually, I think I've got that in another slide too. With this week, we're asking you for feedback. Here at IncubatorWorks, we get funded through New York State Empire State Development for some of our services, especially things like this, making sure we get the word out to people. They want to know what our results are. What impact are we making? So we're asking if you would be willing to provide us with the amount of funding you receive from the CARES Act. And what we would do is we wouldn't share the individual amounts, but we'll sum it all up. And so hopefully we help, let's say we help 20 businesses to get $500,000. Well, that means that we're doing what we're supposed to do. So, so if you would share that information as you walk down this road, we'd really appreciate it. So, and finally, as I mentioned earlier, we are hosting weekly Zoom calls for the rest of April on Thursdays at 3 p.m. So please be sure to send us your email in the chat room so we can send you updates. And also any suggestions, feedback, things that you'd like to hear about. We want to know what you need. So open it up for questions and feedback and anything where people are really wondering what to do next. Do we have any questions, Barry?
No questions yet.
Okay.
Guys, I just wanted to say what a great job you did getting a whole bunch of people together, and it's a ton of information that you pulled in a quick period. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Glad you could join us.
Tom hails from the Binghamton Incubator, everyone. So he's on here for support
Buffalo.
and resources. Sorry, Buffalo. You could tell it's the end of the week.
Yeah, and Tom has actually been a big help in getting a lot of this information. So
You did way more than I've done. I've looked at a few programs specifically, and I learned a bunch of new things here today too. So thank you.
you're welcome. One of the good things here that we have we have a whole network of incubators in New York State. We work very closely together. And if one of our entrepreneurs needs something that we can't find here in the Southern Tier, then we'll go to Buffalo or we'll go up to Rochester, wherever. So we really have a great group of colleagues that work closely together. So no questions, huh, Perry?
I just got one. So let me turn Brent's mic on. Go ahead, Brent.
Hey, everybody. So Nancy, I've asked you this question several times, but I just, in a sense of this, as a small business owner, how can I talk to my clients that owed me money prior to this event happening? And obviously with everything going on, everybody's working from home or shutting down or however. Is there some sort of stance that we can get for 30-day, 45-day, invoices that are due? I have a rather large accounts receivable I'm waiting for. So it's, do I have any leg to stand on?
Yeah, I want to, so we're doing this in our organization, and I would appeal to someone, try to get to somebody outside of accounts receivable, where you might have a connection to whether it's a controller or the CEO, and say, hey, look, I'm a local business.
Yeah.
And I know that times are tough and you have to make your money stretch. But please try to take, please, what can you do for me as far as, I know you need longer terms, but I need to have some payment. And I'd also like to know about your commitment to local small entrepreneurs. So I'd approach them in two ways. All right, you can't pay me in 30 days. Let's set up a payment program that you can live with. And also, along the way, think about the fact that you need to take care of smaller businesses and local businesses first.
Right, okay.
I think the key thing would be getting past whoever the accounts receivable clerk is, or their accounts payable.
Yeah, I was a little worried, but desperate times speak desperate measures, right?
Right.
Okay.
And then do the same thing with the people you owe money to. Say, hey, I'm stretched at the receivable end. I'm going to pay you. What can we do that you can live with?
Yeah, luckily I'm good on that end.
Great.
All right, Tina has her hand up.
Okay, Tina.
Give me just a second, I lost her.
Okay.
There she is. Okay.
I had read that the EIDL loan was no collateral up to 25K, and then somebody else told me this morning that they raised that amount. Does anybody
Okay.
know where that is?
I don't. George, do you know? No? Okay. We're going to have to check that out and get back to you on that.
Okay.
Or let me see. I'm going to flip back here just quickly and see if we can see this. Maybe that spreadsheet will tell us. Okay, so go to the one before. So the EIDL loan, security and collateral, unsecured up to 25,000. Over 25,000 need to give the SBA access to collateral. It does not mean that you have to have your loan fully collateralized, but if you have collateral, it will be used. Now that's pretty funny.
Yeah,
So,
that's
so basically it's saying you don't need collateral up to 25,000. Over that, I think it's up to them.
okay.
I've heard they'll take like an eighth mortgage on your house.
And what's interesting too is the personal guarantee. There's no personal guarantee for loans up to 200,000, which is huge.
Right.
So that's a real plus. So
Yeah.
definitely you want to go to the America's SBDC website
Okay.
and look at this. But yeah, so that's great. So that shows you the value of that spreadsheet right there. And you notice they've got it highlighted at the top that says as of April 7th.
Yeah.
So I keep checking back to see if this gets updated.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. George, and looking at this, we were talking earlier about what SBA loans are under the small debt relief program. And it's 7A loans, 504 loans, and microloans.
Okay.
So that's basically SBA guaranteed loans, right?
Melanie, you still on?
Yes. Can you say
Sorry.
that again, Nancy?
Okay, it's 7A loans,
Yep.
504 loans, and microloans.
Yes. So all their guaranteed programs as well as our microloans.
Yep, so that's great. So anybody who's got an SBA guaranteed loan. Gosh, we might even have one.
I think you probably do.
Yeah, we probably do. We'll have to check that out, guys.
Yeah, and it's not like you really have to do anything. You know, I mean, it's good information for you to have. I mean, like I said, REDEC is informing our borrowers, but it's nothing the borrower really has to do. It's all internal between REDEC and the SBA for them, the SBA paying those 6 months worth of loans. We have reporting we have to do every month to make sure all of our loans are eligible, but there's nothing the borrower has to do. But it's nice for them to know that this is happening as far as all the planning, cash flow planning, and everything that you referred to earlier.
Right.
Nancy,
Okay.
we did get one more question from Roger. Roger, I'm going to unmute you now.
Yeah, so I wanted to know if you could address 501c3 not-for-profit educational foundations. Is there any relief available for these organizations? And if so, what are they?
Okay. The PPP, 501c3 organizations can file for the PPP. The only thing you have to show is that the pandemic has impacted your income sources. So, and has created economic uncertainty. So if you have a 501c3 that is having a negative impact from what we're going through, and most all 501c3s are going to have some negative impact, then they can also file for the PPP. It's the same information. It's to cover payroll. So you use 12 months of payroll and use that as your average and calculate 2.5 months of that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else, Barry?
That's it as
And-
far as I'm seeing for questions.
And for Roger, that thing you can Google also, that's on that. I had a webinar on it last Friday that the state of New York put on just for nonprofits, and it was an absolute disaster. You couldn't hear anything, you couldn't see the slides, and they promised they would send something out on that, but I haven't seen anything yet. But we will have. I'll make sure we have that for the next Zoom meeting that we're doing next week. I will dig that up and I'll get that to Nancy and Ashley and get that on here, because there's like Nancy said, there's a lot of not-for-profits that are negatively impacted by this.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions, Barry?
That was it.
All right, so we'll be back next week. We'll do some updates on this, and we'll cover some other implications of the CARES Act. Of course, it'll be interesting to see what Congress does in between. One of the conversations I heard, which I'd like to probably put a bug in your ear just in case it does happen, is that there might be an opportunity for funding for shovel-ready projects. And, I think about, I was talking to an entrepreneur in the area who is wanting to do some development and has been trying to get the money together. He's got his plans in place and he's ready to go. And so if they do decide to fund, quote, shovel-ready, unquote, projects, it would be ideal for him because he'd be doing this in a pretty distressed area. So hopefully we'll see some money for that, which would be, I think, overall a great help to our region. So stay tuned, and hopefully Congress will work together to help us all get through this time. And we've been doing this now for a while. It looks like we've got several weeks to go yet. So we just want you to know more than anything else that you're not alone. And we're here to help however we can get money to our entrepreneurial community and our small businesses. So call us if you need us. Let us know if there's something that you really need some assistance with. And we'll do our best to get you answers. And
Nancy, I'm sorry, we've just gotten a couple more.
Oh, okay.
So Wendy, did you want to speak now?
I just the funding that she was just talking about, the shovel ready stuff. I was just wondering if that would be something that would be helpful to me, because I was in the process of opening a new daycare center, which has now been halted because obviously I've ran out of money.
Yeah. Well, it may be, and there's also some things for support for daycare centers too in the CARES Act that we haven't even gotten down to that level yet. So Wendy, we ought to have a call next week to follow up. And the whole thing about the shovel ready, that's really preliminary. I mean, that's just some Congress people have been talking about it. So
okay, I'll leave my number in with Ashley so that maybe we could do a call next week together, one-on-one, for the daycare stuff.
great, we'll do that. It'll be good to reconnect with you.
Okay, and it looked like we had one more. Susan, did you have a quick question for us? I've got you off mute, so you can ask away.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as you're okay with having the whole group. If you'd rather do it in a private setting, we can do a Zoom call.
I would actually love to do a Zoom call. That would be wonderful.
Okay,
I think we have a number of questions.
super. If you can leave your email address, I'll set that up.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Okay. All right, I think that was it.
Okay, well, I guess that's it for today. Want to wish everyone, whether you celebrate Easter or Passover or whatever. I heard today that it's also the Buddhist New Year coming up. So there's some special celebrations coming up in the next few days, and I want to wish everyone the best, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Stay healthy.
You too.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Can you see the snow?
Mhm.